Hey lovelies, it's Heather. I'm just gonna make this real short because I just wanted to get on here and kind of say this, but I've been sitting here thinking about being sad, like being upset about something, and about how a lot of people don't go through that emotion. They don't allow that to happen. They block it, and even though I block it sometimes because if I didn't, I would be like crying probably all the time. But at the end of the day, I still express myself emotionally. If I'm sad, I still cry. Anger, um, I just talk a lot about what I'm angry about usually. Or if like nobody's around and I'm kind of by myself, I might throw something. But of course, nothing that does any damage. But usually it's a remote or a phone, and it does damage to the remote or the phone, but that's about it. Um, but yeah, like I was just thinking about that, and I was thinking about how sometimes you get made fun of, and even kids, even kids get made fun of, like in fucking school, like you go to school and you cry in school, and you become a crybaby. Well, the same thing happens when you become an adult, children. If you watch this, I can tell you flat out. I've been labeled the crybaby basically almost at every job that I've worked at because I cry whenever something is really. And now that's another thing too. You know how you can have like mixed emotions, and that's even normal. And so I can be so frustrated and exhausted because of a situation. And it's usually because something dealing with my home life and past traumas that I've lived through and stuff like that. But like I'll just end up crying at my job, and I get picked on and I get made fun of for it and stuff. That's even like I'm kind of crying about my daughter being taken from me and going into work and just not being able to, get past it and stuff, and thinking about it and thinking about my kid when she was there and how she'd come and hang out. And oh, that's Clarabelle. That's her ear. I was like, what is that? But oh, now I see her. Okay. But anyways, you get made fun of for, crying and stuff like that, and you get called names, whether it's crybaby or, I've had people be like, oh, like behind my back, but I know they're talking about me like, oh God, don't say this to so and so, because if you do, they're just going to burst out in tears. They're just going to cry, making it seem like, I'm worse than what I am. And they don't understand why I'm crying. They don't care to know why I'm upset. Instead, they would rather make fun of me or another person that's doing the same thing, for as far as just being emotionally who they are. But anyways, I was sitting here thinking about it, and I was thinking about people, that make fun of it and laugh and giggle and all that about it, and about how no wonder, they end up making fun of you. Because the reason they end up making fun of you is because they themselves don't feel comfortable enough to express their feelings of whatever they're going through. So any sadness or whatever that they're going through, they just block it. They just block it and they just go through it and get through it, and that's the end of it. And so they block it, they build it all up, they hold back their tears and all this and everything. And then they see you that can cry about it or whatever. And like subconscious mind, I guess you'd say, or deep rooted, like inside of them, it actually, the hatefulness that they project onto you, through being judgmental, making fun of you or whatever, is actually nothing more than stemming from a jealousy that you can be that raw, that honest with yourself and who you are and what you're going through, versus them that they feel that they have to because they're putting themselves in that box. And they're not just putting themselves in that box. I don't want to put it all on them, because society does try to put you in a box. Even when you're in school, don't show your emotions. Your home life's your home life. Your school life's your school life. You learn that even when you're like in third grade. Like from kindergarten to third grade, they're teaching you that. I don't care who you are, from kindergarten to third grade, or pre-K to third grade. They're teaching you, oh, you're emotional about something? Oh, something hurt your feelings? Oh, you want to cry about it? Oh, you're upset about it and you want to, you want to be left alone? Because you're mad, let's say, or something. Oh, you can't do that. So, let's forget about it, and you can do that when you go home. Your home life's at home. Your school life's here, or your work's here when you get older. But basically, they're teaching you, that they're shaming your emotions. And that does not allow for a lot of emotional growth. And that's probably the reason, in all honesty, there's so much immaturity in the world that just continues. And there are people that will live to the age of 70 and still be immature as fuck. They'll joke even about their friends that died, and they're 70 years old, and it's just like, have you ever cried about your friend that passed away? And when you ask them questions like that or something, and I don't know this for certain, but I kind of get the gist of it, I guess you'd say, or can piece it together and have seen enough. They'll just, because you asked them a question that they weren't expecting, because you're an emotional person, like I am. You'll ask them something like that, and it disrails, and completely just sidetracks them, and they're like, whoa, what the fuck? And then it also still becomes, there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with you because you're asking me why I joke about my friends being dead versus why, I don't, cry or be upset about it, And then they'll be like, well, yeah, I missed them when I found out they passed away. And they'll get real serious in their talking. And unless you it's almost like a counselor working with somebody, unless you kind of pull it out of them. Well, how did it make you feel? And did nobody care to comfort you when your friend passed away? Did nobody care to be there for you? That was your friend, and stuff like that. Unless somebody does that for you, then you kind of stay blind your whole life. You walk around with blinders on, and the blinders is the box of no emotions. And so the people that are like me, that are more sensitive, I guess you'd say, but then again, not, because sensitivity is a strength. Compassion is a strength. The endurance to put up with it. Kindness is a strength. And I'm just now even understanding that a little bit more, because I'm not sitting here and saying I'm kind, and I'm sensitive and I'm this and that, in a box. You can't tie me to that and be like, she's always compassionate. She's always sensitive. She's always, because I don't live in a box. I mean, you can put me there, because the majority of the time, I ain't gonna lie, I go for the compassionate, I go for the sensitive ways of living my life. But that doesn't mean I live there. That doesn't mean I'm tied to it like it's concrete brick, and I've got to, stay. And that's where a lot of people, when I have intimate relationships, a lot of people that just don't know me, get to know me. And it's actually the opposite way for the others. The others on the other side of the, line or whatever, they're these hard, people that show no emotions. They're just real strict, real dried up, for as far as their emotions and everything. Clarabelle, stop putting your claw in my hair. But, anyways, they're just real, dilatory in the way that they go about doing things. Um, Everything is deliberate, everything is just, so set in stone, and all this and everything. And that's where conflicts arise, to a degree in my mind, because let's say I get with a person like that, which technically I kind of have and kind of did and everything, but I'm sitting here and I'm this emotional, caring, loving person, and they're this strict person and everything. And so you see that in them, you see that quality in them, and you admire that quality in them, and you're like, hey, can I be strict about this one thing that we're discussing with you? I want rules in my house, and I want the shoes left by the door, when you come in, or something like that. Something where normally a more compassionate person would just be like, well, like, especially over here, it's not like a tradition or anything to leave your shoes, whenever you come in. But, so you'd be more just relaxed and more chill and more about everything. You'd just be more, kind of like, whatever, maybe their feet are cold, stuff like that, And then it's like, oh, let me give you some slippers and stuff. And maybe they're like, no. And maybe it's their favorite pair of shoes. You get what I'm saying? Like, you just have this over compassionate side. But you go to that strict person that and you're like, hey, what do you think of this? And they're like, yeah, And then they come to you about their stuff that they want to be sensitive about. And you're like, okay. And so they're sensitive with you. They pull off the mask, they pull off the mask. And now some of them just don't. I've been with people, like my whole family, like they just don't. They don't pull off the mask. Like, you could say that it tilts, and I can see in behind, and I'm just like, are we gonna make a breakthrough? Like, are we gonna get through this shit? And every time it's like it's suctioned. It's already like almost like stuck. It's like part of their everything, so it's just it's like, but so anyways, dang on, so you get with this person that's all strict and shit like that, and then, you're like, oh, it's okay, you can be sensitive with me, and so they are, And then they ask for your advice. And then it gets to a point where you're being strict with them, and you're supposed to be the sensitive one, and they're being overly sensitive with you. And y'all need each other in that moment in time, and y'all are both giving complete opposites of what the hell you expect of each other, because this is like your safe space. And then y'all just end up looking at each other like, well, what the fuck? And that's almost like me and home and making house rules, And this is like dealing with my husband to a degree. But it's like making house rules and being like, okay, supper time's at this time. Okay, this time's at that time. Okay, bath time's at 9 p.m. Okay, everybody's in bed by 10:30, and having this structure. And then them being like, like say they end up crying that night because something happened in their childhood that they want to talk about. And so they're sitting there and they're crying. And you're being all loving and sensitive and all that and everything. And let's say it gets past 10:30, and it gets 11 o'clock and it gets 11:30, and you look at the clock and you're like, it's an hour past like bedtime for everybody, and like, I know that the kid is still up in their room because they're listening. Because even though I told them to go to bed, it's like, hey, it's bedtime, go to bed. they still love you and are worried about you. And so it's like, but it's 11:30 and we got to get up at 6 in the morning. Can we continue this tomorrow? And I mean, it just sidetracks the other person. They blow up completely. They get mad. They're like, you know, why couldn't you be sensitive now? And you're like, oh, well, I am still, but I'm trying to still stick to the stricter side of me that's like, it's an hour past bedtime. We gotta get up at 6. I'm not trying to be selfish, but then again, yeah, I am. Please forgive me. This is the first time I've ever stuck to being selfish and being stuck in a routine. Can we talk about it tomorrow? And then it triggers in their mind if they can trust you, and then it triggers in your mind whenever they get mad at you, because they get mad at you for wanting to be strict now, for wanting to go to bed, at 10:30 and 11:30, because you got to get up at 6, and they're just like, who are you? Usually you're the person that'll stay up, all the time, and believe me, I have been there, and I have done that. Oh my God, have I? I have stayed up with multiple pets, animals, when they're dying. I've stayed up for 2 days before with pets that were on the verge of their last days. I stayed up 3 days, when I was a teenager because my dad took my fucking door off the fucking, hinges. And I have issues with my dad, so I wouldn't sleep. I'd pretend I was asleep, but I didn't go to sleep. And with my kid, oh my Jesus. I've stayed up 3 nights with her before because she's sick. She's running a fever. I've stayed up 2 nights with her before because she's got a head cold. I mean, I've just, I've done it all for as far as stuff like that. And it's like, I met my husband and it's like, do I have to stay up with you all night, to listen to you talk about something? And I get that you haven't talked about it to nobody, but I'm really, really tired, and I really, really like my routine that I have now, and I really, really don't want to break it. And we done have, and I've done been lenient, and I gotta get up at 6, and can we please go to bed? And they get mad. And so then they don't trust you, then you don't trust them, and it just becomes all this shit. And, because they get mad at you, and you're like, whoa, and they get really mad at you, and you're like, you funny. You gonna get that mad at me. When I was even lenient enough to give you an extra hour past, because basically if I was the boss and I was like, hey, you got another hour to do your work, which granted, I mean, technically it's not doing work, but then again it is. Anytime that you're going through talking about emotional stuff or anything, it's like, well, let's extend your time. But even a counselor, that's the reason counseling sessions, they end. That's the reason there's a time that they end, and us, even with my counselor, when I was going to my counselor, I just get in there and it's like fucking word vomit. I was just like, talking forever. And then I would just stop, because I'd see her look at her watch, and I respected time, and, but there's a few times I couldn't because I was in the middle of a sentence or the middle of a story, and I'd be like, you trying to hurry and get it out, and she'd be like, okay, our time's up, and so I'd be like, yeah, and I'd be like, but, I try to hurry and get it out, and that's even like me losing some of my YouTube videos. I would just try to hurry and get it out, because, and that's the thing too, is like somebody that's not used to, and so maybe like dealing with my husband that night, he's like getting everything out real slow, talking about, shit that he's been through or whatever, and he's not capable of speeding it up, because he's not done that. He's not practiced in that field of expressing himself emotionally for whatever reason, and stuff like that. And that's where I guess, my compassion I do lose, and so that's the reason I'm saying, don't tie me to it. Don't be like, she's always compassionate, she's always kind, because I'm not, you know. I'm not. I am the majority of the time. I'm very compassionate. I try to walk that path. I try to stay that path. I like that path. I like how it makes me feel. It makes me feel grounded in myself and who I am and everything, and grounded just like in life, and it makes me feel closer to God. Like, of course, God would want his people to be compassionate and show mercy and pity and stuff like that. But, anyways, so I've just noticed that there's a lot of people, that they live a different life. They allow the box to be built around them, and then the jealousy, whether they realize it's a jealousy or not, subconscious jealousy, ends up wanting to attack the person for being emotional and stuff like that. And that's what they do, and that's the reason people like us get made fun of, oh, you're so sensitive and all that. Because basically, I'm getting made fun of for, like, crying in my videos, and some of my videos. Like, I'm not going to say who or where or when or anything like that, but I'm getting made fun of for crying in my videos about my daughter being taken from me. And, like, that's just fucked up, like, and it makes me mad, and it makes me kind of want to be like, let me take your kid from you, see how you fucking feel, let me do this to you, and see how you feel, and you actually live in those feelings, you actually own those feelings that you're feeling, instead of blocking them out, and see if you'd cry, see if it upset you, and I'm sure it would, so that's the reason I didn't retaliate. I didn't get mad, and I've just been sitting here kind of thinking about stuff and everything. But I've also been thinking a lot more about that video I made yesterday talking about gang stalking and stuff like that. I might make one later on today talking a little bit more about it, because, God, I ramble on so much. It's like, wait, am I making any damn sense to anybody? It's like I put things in such layman, like, ass terms. I'm just like, because I watched it back and I was like, I kind of got my point across, but I wish I could execute it better, And it's like, it's always been like that with me. I wish I could execute that better, and it's like, let me practice at it. So, how do you practice? You get up and you try. And concluding, I have a family that's basically like, shut up, Then it's like, okay, can't try with you. And then I come across people, they're like, shut up, because I, pick the scabs off their wounds, and I'm like, hey, let me help you heal your wound. And they're like, fuck you, And I'm like, okay, never mind. Keep your scab. Fuck you too, But, anyways, that's what you're supposed to kind of do to people if you care about them. You're supposed to help them to grow. Their emotional growth, I'm sorry, I prioritize emotional growth over other kinds, because emotions lead to spiritual growth and so on and so forth. So, at least that's the way that I view it. I don't think intellect, and making my brain all powerful and stuff is going to get me somewhere spiritually. And I mean, I'm not saying that it can't for other people. It might work for other people. It just don't work for me. Everybody's got their code of, like, everything that they live by and are supposed to do and stuff like that. And the way that they gotta go about, coming into possession, I guess you'd say, of certain qualities or aspects of life. But I'm gonna end it here. I hope everybody's doing good. I just woke up, so this is my first video of the day, and yesterday's video was earlier. I about made a second one yesterday, but I might actually make a second one today talking a little bit more about gang stalking. I don't know. But if I don't, I hope everybody's doing good. Keep putting your best foot forward, and I'll catch you later. Take care. Bye.